Hi, thanks for talking to me today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Jen. Appreciate it.
So, can you start by talking about, obviously, this is a lot different than Doctor Who, which is what I know you from. Is there anything, though, from that you kind of brought to this that you learned from working on that helped you out here?
It's just being a professional, just coming to work, showing up every day, trying to be prepared as possible, just making that great environment to work in. And yeah, that's about it, really. But yeah, man, just trying to find the truth and the essence in performances and try and making sure that you're mostly prepared so people can enjoy what you're delivering.
Now, obviously, this show is going to resonate with a lot of people because it's about, kind of what's going on in the world today. How do you kind of feel representing that? What does that mean to you? And did it put any added pressure onto you?
First and foremost, you feel honored because you feel like you've been chosen to have to be a vessel for a bigger discussion. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, there's a sense of responsibility that you have. You know what I mean? Obviously, I'm a young black man. You know what I'm saying? So I'm trying to make sure I represent and I told the story as best way as I can, in truth as we can. And obviously, you want to make sure it's part of a bigger discussion, and a discussion that's held with empathy, it's held with care. And even though, it's based in Chicago, but I feel like these are universal things. I feel like these are things that happen globally. You know what I mean? It happens all over the world, It's just the fact that, maybe sometimes, only one story is only focused on one place in the world, but these things happen everywhere, to some extreme, maybe more extensive, maybe some not so much, but I feel like these things happen everywhere. And I feel like this is a global discussion, this is a human discussion, this is a discussion for empathy and justice, and I feel like we can carry these themes everywhere. So I'm just honored to be a part of that, discussion and to make something that affects people in that way and to make them think. So yeah.
Great. So at the beginning, when Moses first decides to run, obviously that kind of starts a chain reaction of everything that ends up happening. Can you talk a bit about what you think he was sort of thinking in that moment, or maybe he wasn't thinking, and why he made that decision?
I always like to. What do you think he was thinking in a sense, though?
Oh, I don't know if he was thinking, but I think that he was worried that they would shoot him, and
it's all the above, though, isn't it? It's like, someone's got shot, no warning. You know what I mean? Your fear stays heightened because you don't know what's happening, you don't know where it's coming from. People are shouting at you. You know what I mean? And at the same time, you know what it looks like. You know what I mean? You're in a corner. You shouldn't be there. I'm supposed to leave tonight. So it's all these things that are rushing through his head. Like it's flight or flight. You know what I mean? And he chose to flight because he's trying to escape and run to save his future, to save his future, to save his dream, to save everything that he's worked so hard for. And evidently him doing that, it's cost him so much more because it's kept on piling up and piling up and piling up until obviously the main event goes down, and obviously it goes down in a way where you couldn't even dream for this, you couldn't even plan it, And so sometimes, you think you're doing the best thing by running to save yourself from the inevitable, but sometimes it's inevitable,
Right. Do you think that, I guess, and that's why I'm saying how much was he thinking? Do you think that he thought, I guess, that he could outrun it?
Of course, he's a runner. He's thinking I'm a runner. Like I'm out of here. You know what I mean? I run my dash thing and they catch me, but they kept on. They was doing their job. They was being the policeman at the yard. Like if someone's a suspect or they feel someone's a suspect, it's their job to take him in. So it's like people doing great things. You know what I mean? You got an Olympic runner who's feel like I'm gonna run to save my future because I ain't got nothing to do with this, and you got someone thinking that's a suspect and we have to bring him in because he's a suspect. So it's like battling.
Yep. Go for it.
I mean, if he didn't chase him, we wouldn't have a story.
That's true too.
Yeah.
So why do you think it was so important to him to not plead guilty and to go the whole way, no matter what happened?
I mean, because you're fighting for your future. If you plead guilty and you get found guilty, then that's it. You're in a system. So everything he's worked hard for, that's it. It's done. There's no dreams of going into college. There's no dreams of being an Olympic runner. All that is done. I ain't coming out. If this happens and I ain't coming out until I'm a grown man, an old man. You know what I mean? Life is going to happen. I can potentially die in that place, So, he fought the good fight and he's fighting the fight. And that's what it's about, fighting for your life and fighting for your future, like we're allowed to fight for our future, you know, we're allowed to fight for our lives, you know, we're allowed to go against the system. Sometimes you feel like the system is inevitable. The system's going to swallow you up. You know what I mean? It doesn't look good for people like us. But it's like if you have a little bit of hope and you have a fighting chance, then we're going to take that chance all the way we can. You know, go hard or go home. You know what I mean? And he wants to go home, so he's going hard. So that's it. You know what I mean?
Right. So obviously this role is pretty emotional,
Mm-hmm.
but you also, of course, do all the running at the beginning. Which do you find easier, the like physical or the emotional, and which do you kind of find more fulfilling? Or maybe you feel the same about both. I don't
I
know.
mean, it's like both, isn't it, man? Obviously, I'm a fairly young man. You know what I mean? So you always want that ego and pride coming. Like I can run. I'm not tired. You know, I can keep going. But obviously, like everything within reason. You know, everything within reason. Emotion. You know, you want to do the emotions you can, but you know, after a while, you start to get worn out a bit. The emotions take it. I always say this to people. I'm like, imagine like the biggest argument you've had in your life. Yeah. That's probably lasted maybe like 5, maybe minutes, 10 minutes, if it's really bad, you know what I mean? And think about how tired you are after that. Think about how drained you are after that. So imagine having that energy and doing that all day.
Sure, it's very tiring.
You know what I mean? It starts to add up. It starts to take a toll. You know what I mean? Like, because you're putting that strain on your body, you're putting that emotion on your psyche. So after a while, it starts to take. So, I mean, you love to do it. You love to portray these things because you like performing and telling stories. But after a while, it does. For me personally, it does take a toll. So you got to try and have that balance. You know what I mean? You got to try and have that physical balance. You got to try and have that emotional balance and that mental balance of like, all right, cool. I've got to do this, but at the same time, I've got to protect myself in order to like not wear myself out and drain myself out. So I'm able to keep going. You know what I mean? Because my journey is, you know, I only smile on like first season. You know what I mean? So you got to try and find that stamina and that endurance throughout. So it's about being self-aware and taking care of yourself, you know, so you can have the preservation to keep going and tell that story.
I also wanted to ask you too, though, you make me think, can you talk a bit about like how did you train before this? I mean, you're in very good shape, so I assume you worked out and.
Yeah, you know, I was training a bit. Obviously, pandemic happened, so like when you was training and working out, there was no gym, so you just try to make it the best in like home situations and body weight and stuff like that. So we was training. You know, I ran with Dwayne Chambers, British Olympic runner, and I was training with him in terms of getting the form. And I ran with Brian, you know what I mean, and yeah, man, we was just running and getting the form right, and you know, doing a little bits of training. But obviously, it's kind of tricky because at the same time, you know, we was in the middle of a pandemic. There was no gyms. There was no weights. You know what I mean? You couldn't get weights to save your life. You know what I mean? On the internet, it was all gone. But yeah, we just tried to find the best situation and make sure it was constant. So yeah, we did a bit of training for sure.
Okay, cool. What part of the character did you find the easiest to connect with, and what part did you find the hardest to connect with? Just like character.
What's the easiest thing to connect with? Jeez, that's a good question. I don't know the easiest one to connect. Maybe like the family aspect, you know? In the beginning, nah, because we've changed quite a few bits. So what was the easiest? I think the easiest moments was before everything goes down, you know? Life before the incident, life before the accident. So I feel like those aspects before the accident, they was quite easy to tap into, you know what I mean? But I felt like everything after that was quite challenging, it was quite vulnerable, it was quite like emotional. So I feel like everything after that was kind of like, you know, I'm not sure how I'm going to tackle this, but I'm going to dive in head first, you know, because it's like, I ain't never been enough. I ain't never been a fugitive. I ain't never been on a manhunt. So, you know, you're trying to find and put yourself in that position, but you know what it's like to live day-to-day life before the incident goes down. So I feel like everything after was like the challenge for me, and a challenge that I was willing to go and I was willing to explore and try and discover new things. And so I would say everything after the accident was probably.
That makes sense. Do you have a favorite scene that you can tease?
Favorite scene. I want to say one of my favorite scenes is maybe the conversations with like my mother when she comes to visit. That was an interesting scene. I say the scene where me and Courtney made the decision to take it to trial. Scene with me and Bentley when I'm checking on him. I'm on the phone to my brother. And yeah, those are probably my favorites, I say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who would you like to have more scenes with?
Benny and Andreen. Yeah, I would like to have more scenes with Benny and Andreen. Like, who plays my brother and my mother. I felt like I needed more. I wanted more. I tried to push for more scenes for that. But yeah, it's more like the family scenes, you know.
And then just thinking back a minute, I did want to ask, what was it about this in particular that made you want to do this role?
The layers. No, the layers, man. The layers, and you know, I didn't want to do it at first because I thought, but when I read it, I was like, ooh, you actually got some stuff here. So you know, the layers and the complexity, and just the challenge of being a fish out of water. You know what I mean? Just being a fish out of water and just being in a world that he's not comfortable in it, and trying to explore that. You know what I mean? And trying to find those nuances and like, what would you do and how would you do it, and does this feel right? So I think those are the things that kind of draw me to it, and working with Courtney as well, and yeah, so those are the things that kind of.
Okay. Can you describe him in 3 words? Sometimes that's really hard.
Gentleman, leader, grace.
Okay, great. Before we leave, if I may, I did want to ask you one Doctor Who question, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
So I just want to know, how has your life kind of changed since you were on the show? Because obviously it's, hugely popular around the world.
Mm-hmm. I think it's still pretty normal. You know what I mean? Like, I think I've grown up a bit. Like, maybe just, I don't know. I don't think it's changed that much. Like, I don't really buy into like the whole celebrity thing, or like, oh, I've got fans now. You know what I mean? I just kind of, I'm still on the train. I still take the tube. I still drive. I still, you know what I mean? I still have to go to the shop for my dad and that. I've got to make him teas and that. So, life in that bubble. I try and exist in that bubble. I don't really think about external stuff. But yeah, I think it's pretty cool. But I made some cool friends. I'm still friends with Jodie, Mandip, and Bradley. So I think those are things that change, you know what I mean? I'm still cool with them. So
yeah, true. I wonder too, though, after the pandemic's completely over, you might get even more of it, because you're, to some extent, I assume you're still not, I mean, maybe it's different over there than it is over here, but people are still kind of not interacting quite as much, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's different because like it's happened and the second season happened, and I've just been indoors. I don't really go out.
It started before that. I'm trying to think, how long ago was it? It's been a while.
Yeah, so I don't know. Like I'm still pretty normal. I still have the same group of friends. I still pretty much do the same things. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, definitely good to stay humble. Keep that. Don't lose that.
Yeah, for sure.
Is there any chance you might be coming back? Possibly. That's what I figured you'd say. I don't know. All right. Well, I hope so. I hope to see you again. And I really enjoyed this show too. I mean, I did like this show too.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, thank you for talking to me. I appreciate it.
No worries. Thank you for having me, Jamie. Appreciate it.
Forward to, I think I've seen 6 so far.
6?
So looking forward to see more.
Seen a lot, man. You're almost done.
Yep, almost. How many are there? I should ask 6. I'm not even
8. 8 in the first season.
Wow, yeah, then I'm almost. All right. Okay, great. Well, thank you so much. Have a good day.
Thank you so much, Jamie. Thank you. Take care.